have a question, please. You mentioned earlier, I think, here in the slide number 4 about what kind of law enforcement agreements can cities in Oregon have with other governments. And there are two of them. For the locally, say, if we want to enter, like PPP or in the city want to enter an agreement with other local government, we have to do it in writing.
Yes.
Versus with the federal, it can be verbal, no contractual. So what's the difference between that and the one right now when we need an MOU?
Well, the only difference is that, currently we have a cooperative relationship with the federal government, and we just don't have it memorialized in a writing, other than the city's resolution that directs our officers how they will participate, at least with regard to terrorism investigations, with the federal government. So the difference really is that, if we were wanting to cooperate in terrorism investigations with another local government, let's say Beaverton, state law would require us to actually put that in writing and say how we were going to do that. But because in this instance our partner is the federal government, state law allows us to cooperate with them either with a written contract or without a written contract. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Along that line, I guess I'm just trying to get my head around what it looks like right now. So currently then, there is not a written agreement, and so there is perhaps a oral agreement currently in place that allows the different agencies to work together. Is that correct?
Well, I guess I would say it more like this. There's not really, I wouldn't call it an oral agreement, but they cooperate, meaning, they don't orally agree to cooperate, they just do as a function of their both being law enforcement agencies. But at least on our side, the city council has put limitations and directions about how they want that cooperation to occur. So even though we don't have a contract or written agreement with the federal government, our officers have, terms of the resolution that they've got to comply with when they do want to cooperate on terrorism investigations. And so our officers are required to only participate in secret level investigations consistent with Oregon law. They're required to immediately report, terrorist threats or incidents to the federal government, and we're supposed to stay on the executive board. Does that
helps me. And just the other question is, and I'm not sure if you would have the information, but when you described the previous arrangement where the squads were in place, were there, and then now the squads removed the
criminal intelligence unit? Yeah.
I'm not sure. Were there any budget implications in terms of, I guess that's my question, is there?
Yeah, I couldn't give you exact numbers, although I know I could find them out for you. But in general, the previous MOUs allocated the responsibility for paying, that we agreed to place officers on the JTTF squad, and we would pay their salaries and their medical benefits. And if they accrued overtime, the overtime expenses would be paid by the federal government. I wouldn't say there was a huge budgetary impact, negatively at least, or that we were receiving far less federal funds once we took our officers off the JTTF squad itself.
If I may have another question, just clarification. So right now, the cooperative agreement or just partnership
Yes.
is the daily functions of every officer of Portland Bureau are dictated by expectations of their supervisor or the Bureau as they work in cooperation with FBI or other federal agencies, right?
Yes, and the resolution.
Yes, thank you. So now, if they entered in a formal, daily operations and expectations of movements of all the officers who is going to be dictating what they expect from them to do on a daily basis?
Based on our arrangements in previous MOUs and what I understand of kind of the standard MOU, which does not appear to me to be significantly different than prior, is that the day-to-day supervision, as far as, I think what you're asking is, operational, I'm going to send Officer X here, or, having the work assignments, the FBI supervises the work of the JTTF, so they tell the officers and assign their work plans.
Okay, thank you.
In your presentation, you said that the senior deputy city attorney regularly reviews the CIU's work for compliance with Oregon state law and the city's resolution. Would that continue to be true in a new MOU? I guess what I'm trying to get at is there any current discussion of giving security clearances sufficient to do supervision and oversight to the city attorney's office or the mayor's office at this time? Are there any discussions going forward?
We definitely have not had any discussions at the city level with the federal government about terms or amending terms, and I think that's important, and I'm glad we haven't, because the initial threshold question for everyone is really, at least for the council members, is whether or not they should enter into a written MOU, or they should change the status quo, which is really set out in terms of the 2005 resolution. So we definitely have not entered into negotiations, but I think maybe what you're asking is, would that be possible or feasible? Is that something that you think you could negotiate?
I'm trying to get to the community concern about accountability of police. Who are those officers exactly accountable to? And I think that the community has expressed to this body at times strong interest in having officers be accountable to their immediate supervisors. And so this would be a change of...
Yes, I think that you've identified an issue that certainly I've heard the community express, I've heard city council members express, and that if they make a threshold decision that they even want to consider pursuing negotiations around an MOU, that what are the important terms and that we would want to find, and our ability to conduct civilian oversight is certainly one of the most important of those terms that we would want to be clear about how it could occur, if it could occur, and whether or not our ability not to come to